areas where the trawlers concentrate. The problem here, he says, it's right in the migratory path of Chinook salmon, the primary food source of our resident orcas.
They are hit as they leave and as they come back in the heaviest amount of trawling.
While the trawlers aren't targeting Chinook, their massive nets can be indiscriminate. And in recent years, DFO has confirmed tens of thousands of Chinook have been caught as bycatch.
Welcome back to Project Seawolf, back in my California home in Modesto, California. Been here for about a month and a half, so I'm getting a bit stir crazy to get back on the boat, but while I've been down here, I haven't just been sitting on my hands. I've been doing a lot of career building, a lot of research into the route and the history of the route. And yeah, so I have a lot to talk about on this episode. Unfortunately, I didn't have the plane tickets soon enough to have an episode on the boat today, but I'm heading up to the boat in real time. I should already be there by the time this episode comes out. It's just the turnaround time would not have been, I would not have been able to get an episode out. But yeah, over the past couple weeks in California, I've been doing a lot of career building. So I've been in the news. Global News Canada featured me on TV for the first time in my life. Being featured on TV was pretty cool. And a bunch of other news organizations have been featuring my work lately. This is pertaining to my contract GIS work, Geographical Information Systems, with Pacific Wild, where I did something a little novel. So the filmmaker Ian McAllister had me look into a couple of factory trawlers off the coast of BC that he's been noticing, because he has a sailboat as well, and he goes out to the continental shelf and back, and he wanted to see the impact that these factory trawlers had. And these factory trawlers are way bigger than your regular trawler boats, and capable of freezing their catch as they go, and just keep trawling with football field sized nets. So the impact that these trawlers have on the ocean bottom, the habitat down there, and on the species that they catch as bycatch as well, is huge. So my task as a data scientist was to try and figure out the history of these trawlers. So all he had was some IDs and the names of these trawlers, and he said, go forth. And so I cross-referenced a few websites, plugged in some of the IDs into the URL so that I could bypass some of the security on the websites, and found that all of these trawlers were built in Northern Europe, except for one that was built in Spain. So European trawlers that been fishing out the Atlantic. As the Atlantic fish stocks declined and the cod collapsed there, they beelined over to British Columbia and the Pacific. So over the course of 2009 to 2020, these trawlers have been moving to the Pacific and doing the same thing here that they did there. And using AIS that was purchased, a huge AIS data set globally, collected by big data companies, I was able to look back in time at the movements of these boats and figure out when they were fishing. And even back before other companies have done this kind of analysis before have been able to look, because the old data from 2009 to 2012 is stored in raw satellite data. So this code that is not easily broken. But utilizing some software that this MIT professor made over the course of his life, and sadly passed away recently, but I was able to interpret that data and put it all on the map as well.
All right, today we are processing raw AIS data from its raw code form into usable CSVs with Latin long and the vessel ID. So I had to use a splitter code to split large text files into digestible sizes for this AIS decoder application. Guaranteed, I don't know if anybody else is doing this. There's one PhD at MIT that does this, but otherwise, it's just me. And it's going to be plugged into GIS.
So all the way from 2009 up to 2024, I was able to figure out where these trawlers had been and how much they'd been fishing, and it's astounding. Since coming to British Columbia, they've covered 900,000 kilometers and covered an area the size of Ireland just trawling. And on top of that, catching a lot of species that they shouldn't. So presumably There was a recent study done by the Canadian government that looked at how much Chinook they had been catching on accident, bycatch, and they had been catching 30,000 salmon every 4 months. And of those 30,000 salmon, 93% was Chinook. That's huge because they're protected and they're having a very hard time population-wise, and that's reflected in killer whales as well. So the resident killer whales are also having a hard time from not having as much Chinook around. And so I also cross-referenced the species distribution of Chinook migration routes and the feeding grounds of resident killer whales with the distribution of these trawlers, and found that the trawlers had been focusing their efforts in a lot of these Chinook highways. So the amount of bycatch that we're seeing from these trawlers is not really that surprising, given the overlap. The densest areas that they've been trawling correlate with the migration routes of Chinook returning to the Puget Sound in BC. Especially. On top of that, they're trawling in the primary habitat of southern and northern resident killer whales. So they're taking food from the killer whale's mouth and at an industrial scale. So this expose finally went public after I'd been working on it for 2 years with Pacific Wild, and glad I can finally share it with you. That really peaked when I got here in California. I did a ton of work on that to finish it up and do all the news interviews. And there's going to be a lot of future content about that, maybe not on the channel, but media-wise. So if you head over to Pacific Wild, that's who's going to be continuously releasing information. This work is also being featured at the Esri User Conference this year. So a couple of years ago, I was featured at the Esri User Conference in San Diego at the plenary session with National Geographic Ronan Donovan on my work on wolf depredation and lethal reactionary predictions globally. So I looked at where wolves are going to expand their range and how that's going to interact with livestock and how that's going to correspond with the demographics of the location and how that might create some lethal reactionary force against wolves, which would be heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking research in a lot of ways, both on land and in the water. But it's important work, and I really enjoy it. So and it really just helps me stretch my GIS skills and keep them fresh, because I don't think I'm going to be able to pay for this circumnavigation just from releasing videos. It'd be nice if I got to that point, but if I continued working as a scientist, that would scratch that itch for me and keep me relevant and also help fund the whole circumnavigation. Speaking of which, also, we put the finishing touches on the nonprofit that I started in California. So I am now the co-founder of the Oceanic Research Alliance, and with my research partner, Josh, who is a world-class killer whale scientist. I do a lot of data science with him, and for the past couple of years we've been publishing papers, and now that he's graduated, we don't have anything that'll cover our publication costs. So hopefully with this nonprofit, we're able to cover the publication costs, field equipment like tags on killer whales, which we have the permits for from NOAA, and really make a living as scientists for the first time. So check out the description. If we have the website up by the time this video goes out, we'll have the website out there. And again, it's a 501c, so it's a tax deductible donation if you choose to do that. And if not, it's kind of cool to see the work that we've been doing all in one place. This is relevant as well to the circumnavigation because I plan on doing science as we go, and plan on continuing my role as a data scientist and CFO of the nonprofit. So particularly I'd like to try and nail down the distribution of beaked whales, at least help with that. I know I'm going to be seeking out and trying to find pinniped species that I've never seen before, and definitely collecting data along the entire way on seabirds and marine mammals. So that all fits thematically into the circumnavigation and sailor, artist, ecologist, all wrapped up in one. A filmmaker, I guess. On the circumnavigation research side of things, I finally finished Slocum's Sailing Alone Around the World. Highly recommend this book. It was a great read, quick read. And there's great illustrations in here as well, of the route and the things that Slocum encountered. It's truly a piece of work. I mean, this is This is the circumnavigation route that a lot of people are doing today if they're doing the Southern Capes, aside from the Beagle Channel. I don't think he went around Cape Horn proper. He went through Beagle Channel and not around Tasmania, but he went to Tasmania. But it's a snapshot of the mid 1800s, late 1800s, and what that looked like in the world. So if you're doing the circumnavigation route, it's really interesting to read what these places used to look like. So yeah, highly recommend that. And on top of that, I've been prepping myself for some of the thematic videos that I want to do in the future. And a lot of what I want to talk about is the ecology of islands. So this is a really niche textbook, Island Biogeography. So how the geography of an island affects the biology or the ecology of an island and the distribution of species across an island. So it's been really interesting to read about the different kinds of islands, so continental islands and volcanic islands, and how they arose and how that affects the endemic species, and the different kinds of endemic species, like neo-endemic species, which are ones that have migrated there, and paleo-endemic species, which were ones that were on like a continental island when it broke off from the continent. So super important stuff for me to learn, and also just generally very interesting. Almost done with this book, and I'll be continuing more books like that in the same vein in the future. So I have some exciting news about the boat too. So I was able to get in touch with a collector who had the original brochure from Seafarer Yachts from the 1970s, and what the designer of the boat had to say about my boat. So let me first say thank you to Justin Thomas at sailinfo.com for sending me these brochures, both the physical copies and digital copies. I had a mix-up with the address, and he was able to change it last minute, and so thank you, Justin, for being able to change that and get me these brochures, and also for entertaining me with the other Seafarer brochures to see what my friends' boat models, what Philip Rhodes had to say about the other Seafarers. What Philip Rhodes had to say about the Seafarer 36 is awesome. I mean, when I first started this channel, I did a few videos on boat shopping, and those have been by far my most popular videos. And the way I approached the boat shopping was looking statistically, as a data scientist, at what hulls and weights and styles would do best on a circumnavigation, best for me. And it really paid off. With judging by what Philip Rhodes had to say about the Seafarer 36, my statistical analysis was pretty spot on. So the brochure starts out by saying, for the Seafarer 36, this is the boat to go adventuring in. Whether you're overnighting or on an around-the-world cruise, the Rhodes design and deluxe specifications ensure your safety and comfort wherever you may take her. That's awesome. I mean, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a comfortable round-the-world cruiser, and didn't know that that's what Philip Rhodes had in mind until now. He goes on and says, no port is beyond her reach, no cruise beyond her capability. Oh, excellent. That's what I want to hear. I want to go to some pretty remote areas and cross oceans, so that's exactly what I want to hear. And he says, she's probably the most ideal combination of comfort and performance for long-distance liveaboard cruising ever to sail off the drawing board of Philip Rhodes. Sweet. I mean, of course, this was the 70s, so if he went on to make more boats, those don't count within that calculation, but that's good to hear, because, again, I want a comfortable round-the-world cruiser. You can sail around the world on a small boat. You can have a great time in a small boat. My friend Mig, he's crossing the entire Pacific in a 28-foot, hardly without stopping, right now as we speak. And I don't think, and he's doing it and having a great time. He caught a mahi today, which I'm jealous of. It's one of the few fish that I can eat, and definitely before I cross the Pacific to Japan, I am going to have to make sure that I have a spear gun or a way to jig mahi on board, because he's been becalmed for a couple days, and or for at least a day, and he said there's mahi everywhere all around, and he finally jigged one up, and man, that sounds delicious right now. Also, it's driving my sea fever crazy. I need to get out on the water again soon. But back to comfort and cruising. The more comfortable your cruising experience is, the more capable I will be of performing my other tasks, such as doing science, staying energetic, having guests on board. So there's something to be said about comfort, especially with somebody with as many hobbies as me. But I'm limited in the size because I want to be able to do everything myself. I want to be able to solo sail it. I want to be able to solo cross oceans should that need be, which will probably be happening a lot of the time because my friends and family all have lives of their own, and yeah, it would probably be hard to find people to cross oceans with me, which is okay. I perform very well solo. I keep myself entertained and happy solo, no problem. I've got way too many hobbies, especially out on the water and out in the ocean. I'm not going to be bored ever. So whether it's towing a plankton line and seeing what microbes are following the boat, or cataloging the species that I've been seeing, or writing up papers, reading books, that's what Slocum did. He read a ton of books while he was sailing, and I think it really paid off for him because it gave him a lot of ideas. So that's a great hobby to have as a sailor, is reading, because it forces you to slow down, relax, think. So yeah, these catalogs, awesome. Thank you, Justin. Really encouraging, and it makes me feel like I picked the right boat for the job if I don't mess it up too bad from modifying her. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to be releasing videos of boat work, of course, on my boat, but also allegedly my friend Dan from down near Palm Springs is coming up and finally getting on his Yorktown and launching it by the end of the month, which is a couple days. So, and I don't think he has sailed much before, so it's going to be really interesting launching his boat, his Yorktown 39, large Yorktown, with a questionably functioning motor. So probably gonna have to dinghy it out and get him on anchor and work on it from there. But that'll get me out on the water finally. And also, I've never met Dan in my life before, even though we've been talking for the past few years, so that's kind of exciting. He's also interested in starting a channel, so he's on board with the whole filming thing. That's been something that has been an issue in the past, is I've had people on board, or I've sailed with people, and they've retracted their agreement or said that they never agreed to anything. So I've taken those videos down out of respect for them. And yes, I'm sorry for any miscommunication there with people in the past, but I will be more cautious in the future, and Dan has always seemed on board with it, so he's well aware that I want to make content off of his boat, so I'm hoping it turns out okay. So now that we're pretty much unpacked in California, I have my whole painting studio, music studio, and GIS workstation set up, and the library as well. So I've been taking advantage of that and doing a bunch of artwork. As you might know, in undergrad I majored in painting and minored in art history, and before I went on to do ecology and masters. So I've been craving doing some painting and artwork, and I'm finally sending out to my artwork giveaway level patrons the artwork that I'm making here. So being here also helps me fulfill the needs of my patrons, and helps me with like the whole admin aspect, having a stable space for now until the boat's finished. Speaking of which, we're still on track to finish the boat. There's going to be some large purchases coming up in the next year, probably exceeding $10,000, so I'm going to have to find that money somewhere, somehow, to get the lithium batteries especially. That's going to be the biggest expense, but also re-rigging the boat and building the solar arch to help power the electric motor. But in the end, the boat will have a very low maintenance, self-sustaining build, and I'm happy about that. I think it'll be ideal for the lifestyle that I want on board, and I will be heavily reliant on my rigging, on my sails, and being a good sailor. So it'll force me to be a very good sailor. This is something that Sailing Uma has talked about a lot, is once they were out in the world sailing electric, they were forced to sail when others would motor. So I'm actually kind of interested in that. I like the technical aspects of things generally, and I like the there's just something fulfilling about being able to sail somewhere and knowing that you sailed there, whether you pull up to an anchorage or a dock. So hopefully that keys into that itch I've been wanting to scratch. I mentioned before that this is hopefully the last summer that I'll be spending in California. Future summers I plan on sailing, so when the boat's finished, or to finish the boat, I'll spend summers up there. It's been 100 degrees for over a week now, and I like extreme conditions. I love extreme conditions. I love cold weather. I love hot weather. So that aspect doesn't really bug me. It's the whole being inland and not close to the ocean that's driving me a little crazy. So yeah, being able to see the water during the summer is kind of important for me. And that will happen with the boat launch. The kids will come up with me in the summers and spend time with the family or on the boat as needed. So that's how that's all gonna work. But I am so stoked to start sailing the Puget Sound again. I wanna visit all the state parks. I wanna get geared up to go around Vancouver Island, especially now that I've made quite the presence in BC from my trawler research and killer whale research. So it's an area that I've studied a lot and that I'm very familiar with, and I'm excited to take my boat around it. And then after that, the Inside Passage, and then after that, practicing out in the ocean and crossing to Japan and back. This is what we're building up to. It's all working out. Hopefully this is the longest stretch that I'm in California, and I can, I mean, I already have the plane tickets to go down every month now. For over a week at a time. So that's going to be happening, and there'll be plenty of boatwork episodes in the future. So thank you for bearing with me on this chatty episode, not really boatwork. And thank you for your continued support. It's been very positive in the comments. So even with the episode that I had last week showing that plumbing deal, thank you for your mercy, and look forward to helping you scratch that boatwork and sailing itch as well, and exploring places in the world that neither of us have seen probably. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.